Gaudy stats. Good God, that's gaudy. Welcome to Gaudy Stats
with Ben Simmons.
What's on the menu, Benny boy?
You know, when you have a game that was as good as Super Bowl 52, you can't just let it, fall into the stream and drift on, never to be seen again, like some rotten stick branch from a tree. You can't do that, man. You gotta revisit, you gotta look at it, appreciate it, respect it. And that's what we did in the pod today. We talk about Super Bowl 52. We call up Dan once more and let him just bask in the glory of a Super Bowl win. Improbable, underdog. I don't think that's been emphasized enough. Well, actually, I think it has, Simmons. But no, I mean, nobody was giving the Eagles a chance. I mean, the Sharps knew. Nick Foles knew. You better believe he knew. Doug Peterson knew. Oh, old Petey, old Dougie Pete's. What are they calling him these days? Do they have a nickname for Doug Peterson? The one I saw was Doug Peterskin, like Peter, the name Peter with skin, Doug Peterskin. Kind of goes along with Nick Foles' nickname, if you haven't heard it. If you haven't, look it up. It's a bit crass. It's a bit crass for my taste. A bit crass there. That's my... Is it Irish? Scottish? I gotta work on my accents, man. They're fun to do, but I'm not very good at them. But I'm gonna keep on trying. Anyways, we talk about the game. Has there ever been a game that entertaining, back and forth? It had the stakes, right? It had the stats, the scope. It was the Super Bowl, man. The Super Bowl. Think about that. It was the Super Bowl, and we got that kind of game. And you had the underdog, and you had Nick Foles, who was a backup beating Tom Brady, who's, the greatest quarterback of all time. And Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. People out here, I'm not going to name any names, saying that Doug Peterson wasn't smart. He didn't look smart. Look smart? What is looking smart? What is that? There were people saying that, folks. But, no, we just revisit that game. We talk to Dan, get the Eagles fan perspective, that week after the Super Bowl, the parade, Jason Kelce. Then we talk about fandom in general. Like, for instance, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. How did I become a 49ers fan? Weird, right? Why am I a Phoenix Suns fan? Why are some of my friends I grew up with in Louisville Green Bay Packers fans? Why is one of Dan's friends from New Jersey or wherever he's from, but he's an Orlando Magic fan? Fandom is interesting. We talk about that. And then, folks, as I mentioned on a previous pod, I'm falling in love with The Simpsons all over again. And Dan just happens to be a huge, as our orange man in the White House would say, huge fan of The Simpsons. But yeah, with this pod, we're going to munch on something delicious. How about a traditional Philly cheesesteak from Steve's Prince of Steaks? I've never been. It's supposed to be delicious. I was looking at some pictures of cheesesteaks earlier today, and I came across Steve Prince of Steaks website. Some pictures. I don't know if there was a website, but there was some pictures of their steaks. Their cheesesteaks, excuse me. And, oh my goodness, the cheese was dripping. The grease was dripping. It looked so good. I can't wait to go there one day and eat that cheesesteak. Oh yeah, babe. Okay, well, enjoy the pod.
Hello.
Daniel, how the hell are you, my friend?
Doing pretty well, man. I'm doing pretty well, all things considered. So,
Yeah. You've had some time. You had about a week to bask in the glory of Super Bowl win.
It's been kind of surreal. I mean, obviously my life hasn't like changed in any truly noticeable way, and I imagine I would feel a little bit differently if I had actually been in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, I wasn't, or maybe fortunately, because I might be dead if I was.
Yeah, I think you'd probably be dead.
Or at least injured, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, climbing grease poles isn't really my thing, but you never know. The collateral damage occurs in lots of ways.
Wait, what was that? What did you say about Foles?
Climbing grease poles isn't really my thing.
Oh, yeah, grease
but, you know.
poles. I thought you were just telling me about Nick Foles. Yeah. Climbing greased up poles. And I don't know how they – was there a video of them actually climbing? Because I don't know how they did that. Must have been some mountain climbing gear involved or something.
I don't think so. I think it's just the gumption and adrenaline of Philadelphia fans finally having won a Super Bowl. Never underestimate that. You know?
I never will.
We're in uncharted waters here, man. This is
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Philadelphians could like build a ladder to Mars or something, you know, if they tried hard enough.
Ladder to Mars.
They won't, but you know, it's using the very same poles that we ripped out of the ground. Elon Musk should be trying to hire as many Philadelphians as he possibly can.
Yes. So I hate to bring this up right off the bat, but I think it's kind of interesting. The Eagles franchise is in a weird position now with Foles and Wentz. Where would you like them to go moving forward in terms of quarterback?
You keep Carson Wentz. It's not even a. I mean, I would, ideally, I would say keep Foles for. Do whatever Nick Foles wants to do, like give him that. You know, it's like, hey, we won't trade you anywhere you don't want to go. We'll happily keep you around for another year. Mm-hmm. You know, we'd like to get a draft pick for you if you want to be a starter, but this is Carson Wentz's team. Assuming his knee makes a full recovery, which is never a safe assumption, but I mean, Tom Brady blew out his knee 10 years ago and he's still pretty good. Mm-hmm. So, you know, obviously quarterbacks can recover from that. Nick Foles is not better than Carson Wentz. Nick Foles is worse than Carson Wentz. So, and obviously he played a couple of great games in a row, and I will always love him for that.
Yeah.
But Carson Wentz is like 24 years old, man. That's the future. And they're not going to trade Carson Wentz. They would get a king's ransom for him, but they're not going to trade him unless they know something about his needs that the rest of us don't know, which would be really dirty, and I don't want them to do that either. Mm. So, you know, you're not building a dynasty around Nick Foles. You could possibly build a dynasty around Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And they have a lot of their core locked up, it sounds like, for years to come. Not many years, but, you know, like in football terms, they're locked up for like the next 3 years or 3 or 4 years or something.
And if you look at the Pats as an example, you know, they've had a couple of constants, and everything else has always been in flux, which is why they've had like these 3 different 5-year periods of success with different players. But what's stayed the same? The quarterback has stayed the same, and the coach has stayed the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, Nick Foles is too old to be that quarterback, and honestly, he's not good enough. I know he played incredibly well in the playoffs, and that's great. But like Carson Wentz was doing things that Nick Foles is not capable of.
Yeah.
And you know, again, I love Nick Foles. If he wants to be in Philadelphia for the rest of his career, pay him more than any other backup quarterback. He certainly earns that.
Yeah.
If he wants to go be a starter, let him go be a starter, and don't trade him somewhere he doesn't want to go. Do whatever he wants, but he's not the future of the Eagles. So
yeah. They're just kind of
Carson Wentz would be stupid.
Yeah. Well, they're different types of quarterbacks. They're just like one of them, you know, is more of a precision, accurate passer, but he's kind of a statue in the pocket. That's Nick Foles. The other one is more of an improviser. Like I saw some highlights of Carson Wentz this morning, and they were like, by the way, Carson Wentz is still really good, and it showed all these crazy plays of him like getting out of sacks and like chucking it down the field 50 yards, and he's such an exciting player. But I do think that Peterson unlocked something in Nick Foles with that kind of run pass option scheme that they employed. I'm not saying that, you know, they should go with Nick Foles going forward, but you know, I do think I've seen different opinions in perusing, you know, the articles online I kind of side with you, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's just like not many franchises have been presented with this kind of scenario.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, look, you see multiple opinions. Well, now it's the NFL offseason, and people have to say a bunch of ridiculous shit to get clicks.
This is true. It's always true, yeah.
Which I respect. I get it. You have a job to do. But it would be different if their ages were reversed,
Yeah.
But, like how the Patriots, they sided with Brady. But Brady was considerably younger than Bledsoe at that point. And
they sided with Brady against Jimmy Garoppolo, too, which is crazy. And Nick Foles is only 29.
Yeah, maybe they should have done. Yeah, I understand that he's only 29, but there's a reason he's been not winning Super Bowls before now, I guess. I don't know. I mean, look, if you guaranteed me that the Eagles could win 2 more Super Bowls with Nick Foles in the next 8 years, I'd be like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
But that's not a guarantee, and it's not a guarantee that they'll do it with Wentz either. But I think a healthy Carson Wentz makes that more likely than a healthy Nick Foles.
It's tough. But I think the way you're thinking is probably a good way to think in terms of building for the future, long term. I mean, it's easy to be like, oh, let's go with Nick Foles, like short term thinking, But you're right. I mean, Nick Foles has had a really up and down career. He obviously had that one amazing year with Chip Kelly, but besides that, and this recent stretch, hasn't really been very consistent. So, no, I get it, man. I totally get it. But another question I wanted to ask you: what's your opinion of Michael Lombardi? I guess he's from the Ringer. I think maybe he's still on NFL Network here and there. But what he said about Doug Peterson, and what are your thoughts on Doug Peterson now that he outsmarted Bill Belichick?
Okay, so let me handle these one at a time. But we'll start with the Peterson one first. Doug Peterson coaches in Philadelphia as long as he wants, period, end of story.
He was great, man.
He was absolutely spectacular, and, I didn't know what to make of it when they hired him, but obviously it was a good decision. Full stop.
Yeah.
So I was first introduced to Mike Lombardi on the other B. Simmons podcast.
Yes.
I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, at first I was just like, whatever, this is some NFL guy. Okay, I'll listen to him. And within 1 or 2 podcasts, he had said some things that were very obviously stupid and wrong. And I was like, this guy's a fucking idiot. And ever since, he's just kept proving me right over and over again. The man is a fucking moron. And it's like, oh, you held Bill Belichick's towels and you got a couple of Super Bowl rings for it. Good for you, buddy. Fuck right off. He's a fucking idiot. And when he said Peterson sucked, I was like, that's it. We're good. Doug Peterson's a good coach because Mike Lombardi just said he sucked. So, I had a conversation with my father after he said that, and my dad had never heard of Mike Lombardi before, but it, made the rounds on Philly radio. He was like, this Lombardi guy says, I was like, Dad, he's a fucking moron. This is the best thing that could have ever happened to the Eagles. And
oh, God.
I was right. And I didn't think they were going to win the Super Bowl, but I was like, okay, Doug Peterson has to be a good coach if Mike Lombardi thinks he's a bad coach. You failed out of the Cleveland Browns. Okay? You're not good at football things. Shut the fuck up.
Well, just so everybody knows what he said. He said, this is what Mike Lombardi said about Peterson in September. He might be less qualified to coach a team than anyone I've ever seen in my 30-plus years in the NFL. Everybody knows Peterson isn't a head coach. He might be less qualified to coach a team than anyone I've ever seen. When will the Eagles admit their mistake? Will they throw away 2017 by stubbornly sticking with the Peterson principle, whatever that is? That's what he said. I mean, it's pretty harsh. And Peterson was doing well at the time, which is kind of odd. But
I mean, this is sort of back to you got to throw a take out there and hope that see what sticks to the wall. And if Doug Peterson is flamed out, Mike Lombardi has a feather in his cap. And as long as the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, maybe people just sort of forget it. Except they did win the Super Bowl, so fuck you, moron.
But they were doing well.
If you knew a lot about football.
Even if they had just gotten.
If he knew a lot about football, he'd still have a job.
Yeah, well,
he's Bill Simmons' little fucking football toy. It's like, look at me. I know a guy who used to work in front offices. Like, yeah, he doesn't anymore, and there's a reason for that. Because he has no discernible football skills. So,
he's got all these little, you know, I have to admit, I kind of used to like him back in the day, but lately, it's just the same thing with the other B. Simmons. They have all these little terms, this lexicon of these words that they use just with each other, like blue chipper. Mike Lombardi has this thing about, he's a coach with too many things on the menu. You know, they have all these this terminology that unless you're like wired into their podcast and reading all the articles, you have no clue what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it is he said 6 or 7 years ago. It was just a combination of things. Like, he kept saying these things, and he kept being, like, not proven wrong immediately, obviously, but proven wrong fairly quickly. And it was just like, this guy's an idiot. And it's not like he ever offered any. It's not like he was wrong frequently and also right frequently and offered some pretty cool insights every once in a while. Like, no. And he had nothing to offer that was legitimately like an insider's perspective. Like, okay, you were tangentially involved with the late 80s Niners and tangentially involved with the Patriots, but you weren't the GM of either of those teams or the head coach or a coordinator or anything that really and truly mattered. So why should I care? And, you know, it's like the Peterson thing, like, I wasn't even paying attention. I heard about it. Various people shared it. And because I certainly didn't listen to that podcast or wherever he said it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, when he said it, I was like, well, Mike Lombardi's a fucking moron, so this has to be a good sign for the Eagles.
I think it really, it made the Eagles mad because you could tell in that glorious parade, I don't even know what to call it, speech, performance by Jason Kelce.
That was Jason Kelce talking his way onto the Eagles Mount Rushmore forever.
Yeah. Wearing a genie costume?
I mean, all time. Yeah, Matt Ufford on Twitter referred to him as Monster Energy Genie. And
I saw that.
Like, that's perfect. It was a mummer's costume, obviously, but, well, maybe not obviously. If you're not from Philadelphia, maybe you're not really familiar with the Mummers Day Parade.
Yeah, what was that? What was the kind of costume?
Every New Year's Day, there's a Mummers Parade in Philadelphia where people, a certain breed of Philadelphian dresses up in a costume similar to that, and like they play in like string bands and they dance and they get shit faced by like 9 a.m. I shouldn't even say they just carry on their New Year's drunk through the morning, and it's televised and whatever. And
New Year's Eve isn't enough for them. New Year's Eve isn't enough.
No. And it's not something I was ever into. It's not something my family's ever cared about. It's a certain regions of Philadelphia and South Jersey care about it considerably more than others. There was some controversy a few years back because some of those idiots put on blackface and like tried to pass it off as tradition. And it's like, well, some traditions should end, guys, because they're horribly racist. And you know, so they made like a brief blip on like the national news spotlight of like, look at these idiots. It's since been overshadowed by all of the horrifically racist things the president does. But you know, it's
God, you're right.
But they wear these ridiculous like genie costumes and they dance and they play string bands and some of it's interesting. But Kelce like apparently found the largest mummer in Philadelphia and was like, "Let me borrow your costume," and and that was it. But he did look like a genie, and it was incredible. And that speech, my God, that speech, that was just
amazing.
Like I said, Jason Kelce is a top 4 Eagle of all time now.
I think he's a top 40 speaker in the U.S. I think he needs to do like motivational speaking after he's done playing.
I mean, he's got a future. He's got a career in the WWE waiting for him if he wants it.
Oh yeah, you know that's even better. Yeah, he should be a wrestler for sure. He's cut out to be a wrestler.
I mean, that was basically a WrestleMania promo, and
yeah. I mean, it was funny the way he was like picking out everybody on the team and like basically insulting them. You know what media people have said and what you know.
That whole the Lane Johnson can't lay off the juice. I mean.
Yeah.
The fact that he dropped that in a Super Bowl parade speech about the starting right tackle, who has been suspended for performance-enhancing drugs twice. Like, I mean, that's just he ended the speech with like a big old fuck 'em, and that's obviously like Jason Kelce got done giving fucks so long ago, and it's finally paid off, and it's I mean that was the best moment of the entire thing, honestly. From the time the ball hit the ground at that Hail Mary to now, and like I said, he's an all-time Eagle great from now on. It's like him and Dawkins, and then the other two on Mount Rushmore are debatable. But it's
and you had Dawkins in attendance.
Oh yeah, Dawkins was on the parade floats, man.
Yeah.
Brian Dawkins is an Eagle for life. I mean, could Brian Dawkins put a jersey on right now and still be one of the 50 best safeties in the NFL? Yeah, probably. So, that doesn't necessarily make you a starter, but he could crack somebody's rotation. Hell, the Patriots could have used him last week. So
no, they really could have. Yeah, we were talking about how amazing that game was, and how the stats, they've been talked about ad nauseum at this point, but they were incredible. You had Nick Foles catching a touchdown. He's the only quarterback in Super Bowl history to catch a touchdown and throw a touchdown, which I thought was crazy.
The only player, yeah.
Yeah, only player, you're right. And Brady with the 505 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, played amazing for the most part. Just the fact there wasn't a sack in the whole game, and then a sack wins the game at the end, I thought was just awesome. The game, it just had so many elements to it. What was your favorite part of the game, or favorite performance?
I mean, that's hard to say, because honestly, we talked about the game before it happened, and obviously I was very pessimistic.
Yeah.
And I said 5%. I said 5%.
Well, you said 0%. You said, if I'm being honest, you said if I was an Eagles fan, I'd say 0%.
Right. Well, that's the Eagles fan. The football fan in me was honestly probably at about 40%. Like the Eagles have a 40% chance of winning. And that number would have been higher if Wentz had never gotten hurt. I would have thought we were going to win. I would have said we were favored. I still would have thought we would have lost because it's the Eagles. But
okay.
But throughout the entire game, I couldn't really sit there and enjoy it in the moment because I just assumed the other shoe was going to drop.
Yeah.
And
there were some moments where it looked like it could drop.
Well, I mean, hell, when they lost the lead, I was utterly convinced that was it.
Yeah.
And I mean, after the Foles completion, I jumped up and screamed, "What the holy fuck was that?" And
he had some amazing throws, man.
Crying, but
he had some clutch. I mean, he just played the best game he could possibly play. I mean, that interception wasn't even his fault. It was right in the breadbasket. Yeah, I mean, he played a perfect game. Close to perfect you can play.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's why it would be silly to build your entire team around him when he's already peaked. But it's I mean, the moment where I think I reacted the most to, I guess, was the strip sack, because at that point the Eagles are up 5. There's 2.5 minutes left, and the Patriots are driving. It's like, well, we're about to go down. Maybe if they convert the 2-point conversion, we can kick a field goal and tie it and then lose in overtime to make it the most heartbreaking loss possible. But when the strip sacks happened, I, in the moment, lost my mind and then, regathered myself. It's like, okay, we're in field goal range and there's this much time left. We can take about a minute off the clock and hopefully kick a field goal and go up 8. And then, and then when that field goal went in, I was still not confident that we would win the game, but I was at least willing to now accept the possibility that the Eagles might actually win a Super Bowl. And, and then I had an idiot friend. He's a good friend of mine. He's from Sacramento, but he went to college in Philadelphia, and we met doing some canvassing job there. And he texted me after the field goal win, and he was like, "Congratulations, man." And I was like, "Fuck you! You're dead to me." I was like, "If they lose, I will never forgive you." And I can't believe you said that. And then when the Hail Mary dropped, I was like, "Okay, I forgive you. It's fine." But he's like, "You should know better, man." That's basically what I said. So that was the mindset I was in until the pass hit the ground. And then for a second, I was like, "Wait a minute! The clock says 0. The game is over."
Yeah.
And And, you know, you called me shortly after that, and, you know, my reaction is reserved. But it was, I mean, I guess, you know, the strip sack is when I went absolutely nuts, and I was like, wait, this might actually happen.
Yeah.
That was the point where my brain actually went, you know, it is within the realm of possibility that they could win this football game.
Yeah, I mean, that play happened so fast. The ball's on the ground so quickly. Incredible play. And then the kicker, your rookie kicker.
Well, he set the rookie record for field goal distance in a Super Bowl twice. I don't know how many rookies have actually kicked in a Super Bowl. It's obviously a fairly small sample size.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, and I mean, you know, when he missed that first extra point, I was like, the game's coming down to that. And it didn't quite, but I mean, had he made those, you know, then we would have had like, well, who knows how the game turns out, you know, with the butterfly effect and everything. But
it was just, there's so many, as I said, there's so many different little pieces that led to the victory. And back to Doug Peterson, because these fourth down conversions, I mean, he went for it, and it was like, what was there, like 5 minutes, 4:30 left, and you guys were in your own territory, and he goes for it. I forgot the distance, but it was fourth down.
Fourth and one.
It was 4th and 1, and you guys convert, and it felt like such a huge play. And I gotta say, a lot of coaches wouldn't have gone for it there at that juncture.
Yeah,
I mean, Mike McCarthy, would he have gone for it? Andy Reid? I don't know.
No, well, Andy would have thought that the clock meant 4 hours left, so he would have been like, well, we got plenty of time. But no, I remember sitting in the room, and I said, I was talking to, you know, I was watching the game with my dad's childhood friend who lives in Albuquerque and his family. You know, he's got a son who's about my age, and then his grandchildren were there, and I said, well, you got to go for it. He's like, you don't have to go. I said, yes, you do. If you have to go for it, you have to score a touchdown here.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get on the board. You can't give them the ball back. We haven't stopped them all game. You have to go for it. And I figured Peterson would. It's what he's been doing all year. You know, don't fuck with what got you there.
Yeah.
And he did. You know, and I didn't think that they would convert, but I did think that they would go for it. And the rest is history, I suppose. But I mean, you know, it's Doug Peterson, like, actually sort of like, I guess, has looked at percentages all year and been like, hey, going for it when it's less than 3 yards makes sense under most circumstances, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, if the Eagles had a 10-point lead in that situation, then no, you don't go for it. But when you're down one, then you do need to put some points on the board against a team that you have not been able to stop all game. And, you know, hats off to the Patriots offense and to Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. And it's just like, yeah, you can't give them the ball back. You're not going to win if you do that. And it was, you know, it was a great decision. Obviously, it paid off. And the 4th and 1 call before the half where Foles caught the touchdown pass, it was like, and apparently it was Foles' idea, which I guess is where, you know, he's living up to his nickname at that point. And
that's such a crude nickname.
Nobody's denied it. You know, Lane Johnson went on Pardon My Take and confirmed it. So, you know, it's
But yeah, that was gutsy. Yeah, that before the half, and yeah, I saw that video of him kind of calling the play. I forgot what it was called, like Philly something. But
yeah, I think it was a play on that's how ubiquitous Bud Light is in our football culture. They turned a Bud Light slogan into a name for a play.
What was it again? What was the name? What was the actual name for the play?
The Philly Special.
Oh, okay. Philly Special.
But Foles said Philly, and Peterson said, yeah, all right, let's do it. And
yeah,
you know.
Well, I mean, you got
play in Eagles history.
Yeah, no, it really is. I think maybe not overshadow, but your running game was performing on all cylinders. I keep saying but you know, like the Eagles running game.
That's fine. I'm part of the team, Ben. It's okay.
I'm one of those people who thinks it's okay to like say or we or I don't have any problem with that. LeGarrette Blount.
One of the bigger douchebags in all of sports is the guy who goes, "Oh yeah, you're on the team." Like, fuck off, buddy. Just shut up.
Just let me have
better to do.
Let me have this moment, you asshole. I'm part of the team,
yeah,
man.
It's like, oh, you're the kind of guy who yells at waiters. Fuck off. All right. Go away. So.
Oh man, it just really was the most entertaining game I've ever seen. Because unlike the Super Bowl last year, it was back and forth the whole way. It wasn't that amazing comeback last year was so much fun to watch, but this was just entertaining throughout. I know you probably couldn't enjoy it because you were emotionally invested, but have you bought the DVD? I know you said you were going to get the whole package.
I've ordered it from NFL.com. I don't think it ships for another couple months. They still need to put it together.
Nice.
Because I imagine it's going to be like a whole season thing. So, and then I haven't ordered anything from Sports Illustrated yet, but I will. I'm going to get like the yearbook that's like leather bound and whatnot, and I will buy the Sports Illustrated that has the Eagles on the cover. I guess it would have come out on Thursday. I need to go to a newsstand today or something to go get that. But
are you gonna get some like artist renderings of the Nick Foles catch or any of the famous plays from the Super Bowl? You can get some like sketches, black and white, tasteful art.
I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no right now, but that hasn't crossed my mind. I know some people have already gotten tattoos of the play. I'm definitely not going that far.
You're not going to get a tattoo on your left butt cheek of Nick Foles catching the touchdown?
If I were to do that, I would go across both cheeks, and I would have I would have Burton on the left side throwing it across my ass, the Foles on the right.
Yeah. Well, your butthole would have to factor into the picture as well. It would have to somehow.
That's Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
That's it. I got to get Kelce in there.
You could have Doug Peterson like yelling, and his mouth could be the butthole, like on your ass, like when they do the.
He can't be in the middle of the line, Ben. That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
I got to have Peterson like on my hip or something.
Oh God. Well, I can't wait to see that tattoo when you do get it. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm going to say that's fairly unlikely. But
I
had a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Question me. What do you got? What do you got?
I had a question for you. So I was recently listening to the Super Bowl reaction podcast, and I was listening to what Kemp said.
Oh boy.
And now I don't know Kemp. I know him through fantasy football. I've never actually met him.
Oh yeah.
By the time I was going to the lake house, I think he had already gotten married and settled down and whatnot.
He's a character.
But obviously he and I have several mutual friends.
Yeah.
But he was saying, was he being serious when he was saying that it was the Patriots' year and they deserved it, or was that sort of like a tongue-in-cheek playing up the Patriots stereotype?
When you listen to Kemp, you gotta basically fill up like a 32-ounce bowl of salt and just like shovel it in your mouth as you're listening to him, because the man is he oscillates between parody and reality basically constantly as he speaks. So no, don't. He was kidding. I think he in honest moments in that conversation, he said how he really felt about the Eagles. I mean, how could you not respect what they did? I mean, all the fourth down conversions, all the clutch plays. I think he knows the Eagles earned it, even though he said that the Patriots lost the Super Bowl, that the Eagles didn't win, which I thought was really stupid, but that's okay. That's Kemp for you. That's Kemp. That is Kemp for you, my friend.
And how did he end up a Patriots fan, being from Louisville? I know you guys have football allegiances all over the place.
Yeah, it's a mystery. I don't know.
Did he fall in love with Curtis Martin in the mid-'90s or something?
It's a great question. I should ask him that. I think next time I have him on, I'll ask him about that. And because he's an LSU fan because he spent some time in Baton Rouge, and I don't know why or how he's a New England Patriots fan. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He might have his family moved around a lot when he was younger, and so maybe they spent some time in New England. I'm not sure. The origins of that are a mystery. I should ask him.
I mean, there's any number of possible legitimate reasons, but if he became a Pats fan after their first Super Bowl, then I'm out. But
no, he's been a fan for a long time. He's been a long suffering fan for a while. I mean, I became a Phoenix Suns fan just because of Charles Barkley. I was a big Barkley fan, and then I got really into the Suns when they were playing the Bulls, and so that's why I like the Suns. And our friend Sam was a Packers fan. And my cousin is a Packers fan, and they never spent any time in Wisconsin or anything like that. So it's just it's one of those things where Louisville didn't have any pro teams, and so the Bengals sucked really bad,
right?
And so we just kind of chose teams that struck our fancy, I guess. But
New Mexico is kind of the same way. I mean, most people here are Cowboys or Broncos fans, but there are any number of reasons to choose a team when you're a kid if you don't have a regional alliance, or allegiance, I should say. And I have a friend who in the mid-'90s decided he was a Blue Jays and an Orlando Magic fan. And it's like, and he stuck with it. So it's like caps off to him,
Yeah,
but
I've had some friends. I'm not going to name them. You know them. I'm not going to name names here, but I have some friends who have they've dumped teams because they weren't good for a while, and they switched teams, and then they switched back when the team got good, and it's that I can't respect. I can't respect that. Sorry.
No, and I mean, in that, all you're doing that way is depriving yourself of like the actual joy you can feel when a team wins the championship and you stuck with them for so long,
you can't have the sweet without the bitter.
Right, and I mean, you can. I remember in like the late '90s, I briefly tried to be a Chicago Bulls fan. I was like, what am I doing? I don't care about this team, and that was that. Because like deep down, I mean, obviously I'm a Sixers fan. I'm from Philadelphia, and like I loved the Jazz, but because I was obsessed with Stockton, but like,
Stockton.
I couldn't. I tried to root for the Bulls. Like I had like a Bulls T-shirt that I got in some fucking thrift store. I was like, I'm going to be a Bulls fan. That lasted for like a month, and I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like with the Warriors. Like I really enjoy watching them play basketball. Like it's just a beautiful thing to watch. Sure. And so I found myself kind of, I like Draymond Green's game. I like Klay Thompson. The percentages, obviously the stats. It's so much fun to watch them play. So I find myself enjoying them. But I would never say I'm a fan of theirs. Like I'm not. Right. That because there's so many. It's been well documented, but there's so many bandwagon Warriors fans, and you know what? You might even have some bandwagon Eagles fans coming your way.
That's fine. We'll be able to spot them. They'll all be less than 200 pounds. It's like, oh, you're not real. Okay. So, and,
you're not authentic.
You ain't been here. We know who you are.
Wait, was that a little bit of an Eagles? Was that a little bit of a Philadelphia accent there?
used is a big part of the vernacular.
Oh, I love that.
If you're going to make you plural, you got to put an S on it. I mean, that's how plural works in the English language. You put an S.
Give me a little more Philadelphia accent, just something real quick.
I don't really have one because I haven't lived in Philadelphia full time. Really since 2002. And I'm not sure I ever had much of one. But I do say bagel instead of bagel. And I didn't even realize that was a thing until like my roommate in after college was like, "What's a bagel?" And I was like, "It's a round thing that you cut open and put cream cheese on. What the fuck are you talking about?" He was like, "You mean a bagel?" And I was like, "I don't hear any difference." I don't hear any difference here. And but the most popular Philly accent thing that is absolutely true that lots of Philadelphians have, though not all, but lots of, is saying the fluid that gives us all life. What do we call that, Ben?
Water?
Yeah, we say water.
Well, listen, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, so there's things that I say that people are like, what did you just say? Like, I remember in college, I was surrounded...
You like the name of your city?
Yeah, exactly. Like, most people say Louisville.
I've heard pronounced 9 different times.
Yeah, but we say Louisville. You can always tell when someone is either spent a lot of time in Louisville or is from Louisville when they say Louisville. But most people say Louisville, or even some people say Louisville. And if they say that, you are obligated to backhand them across the face because you can't say Louisville. You just can't do that. It's not allowed. It should be illegal.
I've never heard someone say Louisville.
I've heard it,
and I now say Louisville, having spent enough time with all of you.
Good,
but
like when I went to college. I went to college in Indiana. I went to IU, and in Bloomington, and there was a bunch of people from the suburbs of Chicago, from the East Coast, and they had these crazy thick accents that were like just outrageous, like from a movie or something. Yet they would make fun of me, who has a little bit of like a tiny bit of a twang, a southern, Louisville, Kentucky twang, and I would laugh. I would shake my head and laugh because they just sounded ridiculous with their, Bears super fan Chicago accents and their like Goodfellas New York accents, like Long Island. I just thought it was hilarious. But I mean, I've always enjoyed accents though, so I like hearing about the Philly accent, and I enjoyed watching Creed with all those. Have you seen Creed, by the way?
Is that a serious question?
Of course, yeah. The woman that he meets, I forgot her name. I've only seen it once, so I don't have all the details. But what was she talking about? Like the sandwiches, and then she was saying something over and over again.
The word is John.
John, yeah. So
it can mean like any noun. It can mean any noun you want it to be.
Gotcha. Okay.
It also when I was in high school, and I assume still does, meant a very good-looking woman. So.
Have you seen Rick and Morty? That show, Rick and Morty?
No.
Okay. Well, there's a character in that named Squanch, and basically he just speaks he says Squanch constantly, and Squanch can mean like anything in the world, basically. So I guess that's like a
John is basically that, And I think that's there have been characters like that in shows for long, periods of time, and I think like Snarf from the Thundercats was like that. And South Park did an episode where all the aliens just said Marklar over and over again. It was kind of like that. That's kind of how John is in Philadelphia. But it usually refers to a noun.
Gotcha.
Any noun you want it to be. Like, it's a very ubiquitous word. But, it's not something I say when I'm not in Philadelphia. But if I'm hanging out with my high school friends, I'll slip back into it pretty easily.
Gotcha.
And,
well, you're a huge Rocky fan. I'm slapping myself right now because I should have known you would have seen that movie. You and Todd need to do. I think you guys need to get together, just you two, because I'm not a super fan. I love Rocky, but I'm not a super fan. You guys need to get on the line and record something, and I will gladly release it on this pod, or you can release it somewhere else if you want. But it would be an honor to do release your conversation about Rocky on this podcast. I just want to let you know.
I mean, well, I was going to say, our mutual friend Todd and I went to see Creed together in theater, then I can't say for sure that we both cried, but I definitely can't say for sure that we both didn't. So
you looked over and there was like a little bit of a glisten on his eyes.
I mean,
something.
My eyes were a little blurry, so I couldn't say for sure if his were, but...
Well, I watched it in my sweatpants at home, and I got a little choked up. I didn't cry, but how could you not? It was so well done.
We do a Rocky podcast. I think it should at least be a three-way call, Ben, because you say you're not a super fan, and I believe you. But at the same time, I've been in a lake house room where like 4 people were sleeping, including you and I, and they couldn't really get to sleep because we were singing numerous 80s songs from Rocky IV montages. So if you have drunkenly sang "Hearts on Fire" with a Philadelphian, that makes you an automatic Rocky fan.
All right, so, fair enough. Well, I got to figure out how to do a three-way, because I cannot figure out how to do a three-way pod right now. It's beyond my technical expertise. But maybe we can Skype. We can do like a three-way Skype, or we'll figure it out. We'll get it worked out.
Can you do a three-way call?
I can't. I don't know how to. I can't do it on my phone. I've tried.
I'm sure you can, Ben.
Well, maybe
I imagine less than 60 seconds of Google research will tell you how to do this.
I honestly researched it for about 15 minutes. 15 minutes I gave it, but I tried to do it a couple weeks ago. I couldn't figure it out, but I've been a little busy lately. I need to focus on it. I need to apply. I even tried to download this app that supposedly could give you three-way calls, to no avail. But we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. It'll be glorious. I'll just, I'll say some things here and there, but I'm gonna let it breathe. I'm gonna let you guys just, for lack of a better verb, gush all over the pod. Your Rocky love, and it'll be a Gaudy Stats classic. We'll talk about, like, you said you wanted to count the jabs, or what did you say you wanted to go through all the fights and count how many punches were thrown?
I wanted to score the fights, yeah. But But at the same time, I realized, like, I was recently watching a couple of Rocky movies, and it's like they just skip like 6 rounds at a time. You can't really do that. Like, you know, I wanted to score the first 2 Rocky Apollo fights because I think that, you know, in the first one, Apollo would have won like 13 rounds to 2. And in the second one, he's up at a ton at the end and like going toe to toe to Rocky is just an absurd decision because he so obviously won, but at the same time, you know, his pride wouldn't let him just dance around.
Yeah.
And
well, you know, I've always thought about who would win in a fight, Mike Tyson or Drago.
Oh, Drago, come on.
You think so?
Dude, Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson.
But that was like a little fluky. I mean, Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but like
was a bull, as they say.
But Mike Tyson basically, like, if you punched him, he started to get upset. Like, and so Mike Tyson won because people got scared of him, and then they let him punch them basically into unconsciousness. Drago was a robot. Like, he wouldn't have been afraid, you know?
Yeah, he wouldn't have been afraid. That's true. Although Mike Tyson I mean, he was actually insane for a while in real life. You could debate that if he was or not, but he had the aura of being really unstable, capable of anything, biting ears off. So it's a tough one, man. It's the we could do a whole pod about it.
I mean, Ivan Drago is Tom Brady on even more performance-enhancing drugs. So that's
wow.
That's who Drago is.
Wow, on even more PEDs. You know, I'm so jaded with professional athletes. I would not be surprised if something came out about him being on something.
I mean, whatever it is he's doing, I'm sure it's not technically illegal. But, you know, like, can we prove that Tom Brady didn't have children just to extract their blood, spin it around, and shoot it back into his own body? Can we prove that?
Jesus.
No.
Oh, that reminds me.
He definitely uses them.
I got to tell you something. I got to tell you something, Dan. This reminds me the taking the younger blood and putting it back into an older man's body. I have recently upgraded.
I'm excited to see where this is going.
I've recently upgraded my cable. Okay. And I hope I didn't get your hopes up because it's not that exciting. But I upgraded my cable for the sole purpose of being able to watch every single episode of The Simpsons. Streaming it on FX Now. I was a lad. I was a wee lad. And I stopped watching at some point. I love The Simpsons, but you know, you get older, your tastes kind of fluctuate. You go to other things.
Sure.
You start smoking weed, blah blah blah. I should have actually been smoking weed and watching The Simpsons because it's really trippy in some.
Yeah, when you start smoking weed, that's when you buy the DVDs.
Yeah, exactly. So I got away from it, and then I was like, oh, I don't want to start watching now because it's like, you know, I haven't watched these seasons. So now finally, I'm watching them from the very beginning. I watched the first 2 seasons. I'm on season 3. I'm just gradually making my way. It's amazing. It's just as great and revolutionary, I feel, that it was when it first came out. But anyways, there's an episode with Mr. Burns that you probably remember this one. He has some sort of disease and he needs a blood transfusion. And he has this rare blood type. But Bart ends up having his blood type. And he's like on his deathbed, and he gets the transfusion.
We're ready with the transfusion.
Smithers, I'm not going to make it. I want to dictate my epitaph.
Go ahead.
Charles Montgomery Burns. American. And patriot. American patriot. Master of the atom. Scourge of the despot. Oh, tyrant, hear his mighty name, and quick, Smithers, I'm back. Smithers, I'm back in the pink, full of pith and vinegar.
Just remarkable, sir.
You know, it's funny, Smithers. I tried every tincture and poultice and tonic and patent medicine there is, and all I really needed was the blood of a young boy.
Oh, it's so funny. It's amazing. I know you're a huge Simpsons fan, so I thought I'd share that with you.
I am, and I'm proud of you for going back and watching it. I mean, you don't have to go past like season 10 if you don't want to.
I'm going to. I'm going to do it because I watched some of season 29. Fine. It wasn't that bad. I watched the current season. It's actually pretty good, but maybe I'm just easy to please.
It could be that, and honestly, like you have to understand that you're so far removed from what was the golden years of The Simpsons that like. You're comparing it to current television, and like it's like okay,
that's true.
If the golden years didn't exist, then I'm sure current Simpsons would be fine. I mean, now it's being written by guys like us who grew up on the show, and girls. I don't want to say that it's only a male thing, but the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons and really 3 through 8, I honestly consider humanity's greatest artistic achievement. So and that sounds hyperbolic, and it sounds ridiculous, but like,
not to me.
What's better, Guernica? I mean, Guernica's one fucking painting, and it's an incredible painting. But like, you've seen it, okay? You can't spend 200 hours with it, So
more
I guess you could if you're really into that. But it's the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons and 3 through 8 especially are it's flawless television, and it's like 200 straight episodes of flawless television.
You should watch Rick and Morty. I think Rick and Morty is excellent. It's very good. And watching The Simpsons now, I can see so many similarities. You can tell the people on Rick and Morty were definitely Simpsons fans. I mean, there's just so many similarities. Same with Bob's Burgers. Same with some of the, Family Guy. I mean, name the animated show, and even name the non-animated show. There's just so much influence there, and it's so fucking good. It makes me so happy.
Yeah,
it makes me so damn happy.
It's far and away the most important television show of all time, and whether or not it's your favorite is, that depends on whether or not you have a sense of humor. But it's nothing. You can prefer other shows if you want. I know people who prefer Seinfeld, and that's fine. Seinfeld's great.
No fucking way.
Seinfeld's great, but I mean, come on, it's not The Simpsons.
No.
Nothing is The Simpsons.
Close. Not even close.
And had The Simpsons ended after like season 11, then I think that it would be more highly thought of.
Yeah.
But because like it's still fucking on. They're like north of 600 episodes. It's
I know.
Insane.
And comparing it to like some of the current shows, the popular shows like Bob's Burgers, things like that, the current season is right up there with it or better. So it just goes. It kind of to your point about it. Maybe a second tier Simpsons is still, far and away better than a lot of these shows.
Yeah, and I mean there's some real dark years. Like in the teens.
Really?
Like that's when I stopped watching basically when I got to college. And it wasn't because I didn't have the time, it's because the show wasn't good anymore. And I've heard it's rebounded. I haven't watched The Simpsons. The last episode I watched was like the 500th episode, which was like 6 years ago.
So many episodes.
It's just there's so much good TV out there that I don't feel the need to watch The Simpsons anymore because I basically have seasons 3 through 8 burned into my brain.
Gotcha.
And I don't need any more of The Simpsons. That's all I want from it,
Yeah.
And
No, I understand that.
3 through 8 is so perfect, especially 6, 7, and 8, that it's. I don't need anything else from that show. That's how I choose to remember it. Of course, I watched the movie and I had high hopes for the movie. The movie's pretty disappointing, but
that's all right.
It was fine. If it was a standalone thing, it's a B-, but it's not a standalone thing.
Yeah.
If they had made the movie in 1998, how much different would it look, And so, like, South Park is smart. They made their movie, like, after season 2, and it's fucking brilliant,
Oh, that movie is so good, the South Park movie. Oh, God.
Right, back when they still had ideas, And if the Simpsons made their movie in 1998, maybe instead of being the greatest episode of all time, the Hank Scorpio episode becomes the movie. And it's the greatest movie we've ever seen, And they basically, the villain in the movie is basically a parody of Hank Scorpio. And if you don't know what I'm saying about Hank Scorpio, just wait till season 8.
I don't.
But
I can't wait.
It's Albert Brooks plays a supervillain who is like affable and ends up hiring Homer in an episode in season 8. And it's the greatest one-off Simpsons character of all time. And they sort of based the villain in the movie on him, and also had Albert Brooks voice him in the movie. But that episode is like the first or second episode of season 8, and I think it's the greatest episode of television ever made. But you'll get there.
I can't wait, and I'll keep an eye out once I get past season 10 or whatever you said, or season 8, and hopefully I'm gonna try to power through. But if they get too bad, then maybe we'll skip ahead or something. But Oh, all right,
you're
Dan.
gonna run out. I think you're gonna run out of steam in the teens, but that's okay.
Okay. Well, I'll keep an eye out. Hey, thank you so much for getting on the call with me and chatting up, talking about the Eagles and other things. I appreciate it, man. And yeah, we'll be in touch about that Rocky Pod.
Okay. It's been a pleasure as always, man.
All right, buddy. Congratulations. Talk to you soon.